What's going on YouTube? It's your boy the Me Fine Teen Time, bringing you another Gotham Knights video. And guys, this is going to be another IGN video, and they have more footage of Gotham City from the game Gotham Knights. And I guess it's the developers explaining how they actually built Gotham City for the game with 400 years of history apparently. So hey, without further ado, let's get right to it.
In the 1650s, 5 families left Europe, eventually landing on the rain-swept islands that pepper the mouth of what would one day be called Gotham River. Those families, the Waynes, the Cobblepots, the Elliots, the Arkhams, and the Kanes, would build a colonial fort together and sow the seeds of centuries of dominance in the area. Gotham City was born. The city quickly spread beyond its original bounds, developing 5 boroughs, and in each, one of those 5 founding families would take root. In the early days, the Kanes established themselves on Gotham's natural harbour, now known as Historic Gotham, tying the family to their new country's military might, building ships and weapons of war. By the 1850s, Gotham had become a major trade hub, helped along by the industrialist Cobblepots and their smoke-belching Southside steel mills. Gotham continued to transform over time. In the 1920s, the Elliots took hold of the 20th century's newest means of control, mass media, and built downtown Gotham in a new Art Deco image. By the 1960s, Gotham had truly become a patchwork of industry and architecture. The Arkhams settled in North Gotham, building their famous asylum. Yes, it's in the game, and no, it's not as you've previously seen it. The Waynes, meanwhile, built their billions in New Gotham, helping advance the town into a new, technological age. Which brings us to the present day, and the Gotham you'll be exploring as Batman's protégés in Gotham Knights. An open world as soaked in history as it is by neon light and vigilante-friendly shadow. Warner Bros. Games Montreal created that history early in production, a whole new timeline for a whole new version of Gotham City. And it isn't merely window dressing. The timeline informs everything from the plot, to the gameplay, to the game's biggest mystery, the Court of Owls conspiracy. The team didn't just build an open world to play in, it's truly trying to build a city.
So it's going to be very lively and shit, almost like on some GTA shit.
Key to this take on Gotham are those 5 boroughs and the worldview of the families that historically controlled them.
So for us, the 5 boroughs, it started with the families. The families moved there, they built imposing structures within those districts. So then we build around that to where the identity for those districts really is based off of that family.
Within those boroughs, the team tries to tell stories without simply having someone speak them out loud.
If you visit a city in real life, it's hard to tell some of that history. So because we're making a game, really what we want to do is kind of obviously reveal some of that stuff. So there's a lot of areas that are kind of stuck in time, like even something as, kind of generic as construction, like it becomes interesting when it's halted construction, or it's now abandoned and overgrown, or it's ruins. All those things are more interesting for the player than just a modern city. So we tried to have a lot of those areas where it's almost stuck in time, so the player can really experience what it was back then a little bit too, and see how the city evolved.
The team has historical and gameplay basis for every new environment. Take the Cauldron, built into the Cobblepot's lower Gotham area.
We always would like to tell a story with every borough, and there's one specific one that is not necessarily related to the family, but is an effect of some of the projects that those families undertook, which was a mining operation that happened in a riverbed. So they decided to wall off 2 sides of a portion in the water, and they dredged it for mining operations. It would attract workers for the mining operation. It was low-cost housing. It remained like actually a slum.
The Cauldron's history is written into its walls, with tumble-down buildings and cramped, unplanned streets, all set in the shadow of the more prosperous districts around it. But all of this is a distinct gameplay choice too.
This spot is kind of like a transition area between the financial district and the south side. So we have like 2 very different themes, while being in a third theme that is very organic,
cool,
has a complete different
really
way
just
for the player to navigate over. It's a lot more parkouring. So the player always has the choice to pick the best tool and the best navigation verb to be as efficient as possible. And we have different neighborhoods that will give you different experiences.
This interplay of history and gameplay can be seen across the city. The once beautiful Robinson Park is a symbol of the city's decay, but it's also an open space where your usual stealth tactics may no longer work in the same way. The enormous Elliott Centre is a literally gilded reminder of the family patriarch, complete with a museum exhibit about the family inside.
That's
and it's
old
also
gameplay.
a complex, multi-layered bit of vertical level design, built to house the Mr. Freeze boss battle later in the game.
Though.
And it's not just that timeline that acts as history here either. While this is a new take on Gotham, it includes many references to the comic books it's drawing from. Of course, there are buildings you'll know, right down to deep-cut references like Noonan's sleazy bar from Garth Ennis's Hitman series, but the very fabric of Gotham itself acts as an Easter egg in places. Perhaps most interesting is that this Gotham has a public history and a secret history. We already know the game will centre on the Court of Owls, a shadowy, manipulative group born of the founding families. Gotham itself will reflect that conspiratorial past too.
One of the things that we love about the Court of Owls, aside from the fact that it's a new, fresh addition to the Batman canon, is that they represent a threat that is so embedded and so intrinsic to Gotham City that even Batman doesn't know about it. And the notion of a threat that is so intimately tied to a city that he considers to be his city, that he knows like the back of his hand, that he's been patrolling for, literally decades at this point. That's a very intimidating and scary idea. With that in mind, what we knew is that we needed to give you a sense of Gotham's history in order to be able to show all the ways in which the court is embedded in that. That feeling that Gotham is kind of an adversary and that Court of Owls is the embodiment of that, the personification of it.
The phrase commonly used at the studio for this is that they didn't just build up, creating those hugely visible landmark buildings and stories for every new district, but that they also built down.
We started to imagine how the form of the city could be affected by that, and it started kind of helps suggest a geography, an urban geography to the city, going all the way back to like the late 1600s. And then we started to think, okay, well, what were the major events in history that they would have reacted to? Is it the Revolutionary War? Is it the kind of exploitation of the West, like the building of the railroads? Like all of these ideas became part of that conversation. That's a good way to think of it. And allowed us to kind of build layers of accreted history. And we built it up and we built it down. Like we said, okay, what's buried under the city? Like what are the hidden secrets that you can find in the course of investigating the Court of Owls?
Naturally, the team isn't talking too much about what those buried secrets might be, but we see hints of it as we're shown Gotham's open world. A seemingly nondescript building might be a gang hideout, which leads to a tunnel system that brings you into an exit into Gotham that you would never have guessed at, for example.
We want the Court of Owls to feel like they're involved in everything. If you were to go to a major city in North America, like often they'll build a city on top of another one. Like Chicago, like they had the fire, they just built on top of it because it's not worth like rebuilding, destroying and rebuilding. So what the undergrounds allow us to do is kind of reveal that cross section of the city. So we have areas like that where you drop in, you keep going and you see things that you didn't know were there, that you didn't know the city was built on top of. And I think that's a really cool element. We try to allow the player to see kind of behind the scenes of the city, go under the surface, and as well as seeing it from up high from the bigger landmarks.
The result of all this work is that this take on Gotham aims to feel like a legitimate place, not just a sandbox for spandex crime fighting. We've heard before that this will be the largest Gotham ever made in game form, but that's not what the developers are proud of.
We made a very big Gotham City, but what I think is really unique to Gotham Knights is the density of it. Sometimes I will be searching for something or fighting a crime and not realize how close to me something else is happening that I'm going to want to interact with afterwards or before.
Organ trafficking? Oh no.
Such a depth of nooks and crannies to explore inside our city, and I think that that's really unique to Gotham Knights.
The idea of a Gotham packed with references, miniature histories, and sinister mysteries is alluring. After all, this is the promise of a town with real backstory, that it's not just the people living there who'll help tell the story, but the city itself. Gotham has been many things to many people. It's appeared in comics, movies, and gaming worlds. It's been reinvented repeatedly, travelling through time with us from block colour 40s issues of Detective Comics to the grey monoliths of Christopher Nolan's trilogy. But all of those versions of Gotham have been snapshots of a city in its current form. Perhaps the most interesting thing about Gotham Knights version is that we won't just see the city as it is, but hopefully learn what it's been.
And also, like, you have to realize, like...
We'll be covering Gotham Knights and offering exclusive footage all this month as part of IGN First.
That was a good video. But, like, guys, you also have to realize, like, in Arkham Knight, Arkham City, and Arkham Asylum, like, we were only able to see small portions. And even in Arkham Knight, we weren't able to see the livelihood of the city because it was evacuated. We weren't able to interact with the citizens or see the citizens even. So it's just like with this, it gives it a brand new breath of like fresh air, literally. I am very excited to see this. Like, this is going to be awesome. But anyways, guys, if you enjoyed this video, please hit that thumbs up button. Also, subscribe if you're new and turn on that notification bell for more videos like this. I can't wait for this game to come out. I'm very excited. And guys, I will see you in the next one. Titans, go.